Welcome to today's sitting. Before we commence, I intend to make some personal remarks to the House, and I would ask for your indulgence for me to remain seated for this and for other items of business. Thank you. Members, this is the sixth occasion that I have sat in this chair in the capacity of acting Speaker at a session of this Assembly convened for the purpose of attempting to elect a permanent Speaker into the post. It has been both a personal privilege and an honour to have performed this duty on your behalf. I concede that it has taken me some time to help in a small way to try and deliver a successful outcome. However, I'm confident that today will be the day that I can finally pick up my P45 and end my career as acting Speaker. Given the budgetary constraints, I'm not expecting a retirement gift of a gold watch. I understand that I may have made a bit of Assembly history by setting an unwanted record for the number of attempts an acting Speaker has made to complete the task of actually electing a Speaker. My personal hope is that this unwanted record will remain unbroken in the future, as it would mean that once again we have deprived the people that we represent of the governance that they entrust us to deliver in his place. I wish to place on record my thanks to you all for your cooperation and patience with me during this lengthy process, and also for the assistance and support that I have received from the Assembly staff in performing this duty. Thank you. The Speaker has summoned the Assembly to meet today, and I welcome him in the chamber this afternoon as we come together to elect his successor. Mr. Speaker, you have exercised your authority in this chamber with integrity, impartiality, and more patience than maybe we often deserved. We wish you well for your retirement. The first item of business today is the election of the Speaker. Section 39(1) of the Northern Ireland Act provides that each Assembly shall, as its first business, elect from among its members a presiding officer and deputies. Therefore, the Assembly cannot conduct any further business until a Speaker and at least 2 Deputy Speakers have been elected. Members should be clear, without the election of a Speaker and 2 Deputies, no further business can proceed. I wish to advise members that the election of the Speaker will be conducted under the procedures set out in Standing Order 4. Further to Standing Order 4.2, I am the acting Speaker today for the purpose of electing a Speaker. My sole responsibility is to preside over the election of a new Speaker, and I will not be taking any points of order that do not relate to that specific matter. I'll begin by asking for nominations. Any member may rise to propose that another member is elected as Speaker. I will then ask for the proposal to be seconded by another member as required by Standing Order 14. I will then verify that the member seconded is willing to accept the nomination. After that, I will ask for further proposals and follow the same procedure for each. When it appears that there are no further proposals, I will make it clear that the time for proposals has passed. If members indicate that they wish to speak, a debate relevant to the election may then take place, during which members will have up to 5 minutes to speak. At the conclusion of the debate or the conclusion of the nominations, if there are no requests to speak, I shall put the question that the member first proposed shall be Speaker of this Assembly. The vote will be on a cross-community basis. If the proposal is not carried, I shall put the question in relation to the next nominee, and so on until all nominations are exhausted. Once a Speaker is elected, all other nominations will fall automatically. Do I have any proposals for the office of Speaker of this Assembly? Mr. Buchanan.
I nominate Edmund Poots, MLA.
Do we have a seconder for that proposal?
Seconded, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Thank you very much. Mr. Poots, are you happy to accept the nomination?
I am.
Thank you very much. Mr. O'Toole?
The Social Democratic and Labour Party, I nominate Patsy McGlone, MLA, for the office of Speaker.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that?
I second this.
And Mr. McGlone, are you happy to accept the nomination?
I accept.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Mr. Stewart?
On behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, I nominate Dr. Steve Aiken, MLA.
Does that nomination have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Aiken, are you happy to accept that nomination?
I'm happy to accept that nomination.
Are there any other nominations? The time for proposals has expired. A number of members have indicated that they wish to speak. I would remind members that they may speak only once in the course of the debate, and members have up to 5 minutes in which to speak. I call Sinead Innes. Thank you.
Mr. Acting Speaker, can I just say at the offset how good it is to be back in this chamber, actually doing business that people elected us to do. If you'll indulge me, I'd like to take this opportunity to say a few words of thanks to my friend and colleague Alex Maskey on the fantastic job that he has done as Speaker of this Assembly. When Michelle O'Neill nominated Alex 3 years ago, she said she did so in the knowledge that he would carry out his role with determined professionalism, treating all with impartiality and respect, and he has certainly lived up to that. His decision to retire from frontline politics is a huge loss to this institution. And speaking to Assembly staff over the last number of days, they have been glowing in their genuine appreciation for his steadying presence and guidance during this difficult and uncertain period that we have just come through. But nowhere will Alex's loss be more keenly felt than by his colleagues in Sinn Féin and by the party as a whole. Alex was a trailblazer for our party. He was the first Sinn Féin member of Belfast City Council and the first Republican mayor in the history of Belfast. He has been a constant presence over the decades, whether it was the Good Friday Agreement negotiations or the many subsequent rounds of negotiations. Alex was always there and always a key figure, bringing experience and maturity, and also a fierce commitment to equality and a tireless determination to make politics work for everyone. That has been the hallmark of an incredible and unique career in the service of people I know Alex was honoured to represent. I grew up looking up to Alex and watching him and others guide our society towards peace and equality. And my younger self really just could not comprehend that I'd one day have the privilege of standing here wishing him well as he takes a step back from the front line of political life. But my mind would equally be just as blown to think that I would have the opportunity to work with Alex, but that I would have the even greater honour to call Alex a friend. Your retirement is well earned, Alex, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone in this chamber when I say Gur Mila Mahagat, and I wish you, Liz, and the rest of your family every happiness in the years ahead. Mr Acting Speaker, in that same spirit, can I just say I want to wish a big ab more to whoever the new Speaker is to be. It's always a challenging role that they undertake, and they have all, on behalf of the team, all our good wishes for what will be a challenging time ahead as it steers through the many debates and issues that we'll have to go through in the time ahead. So, Gurmila.
Thank you. Call Mr Stuart Dixon.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Today indeed marks a new chapter for this Assembly, but also the end of an era as Alex Maskey finally gets to retire after 26 years in the Assembly and 4 years as Speaker. During that time, he has shown leadership in extending the hand of friendship to those from different backgrounds. Indeed, as has been remarked, the first Sinn Féin councillor in Belfast since the 1920s, he went on to become the first Sinn Féin Lord Mayor, which indeed created headlines, but was also the act of choosing the opening of the Presbyterian General Assembly as his first public duty that marked him as someone different. Laying a wreath for remembrance is seen now as a normal act, but for a member of Sinn Féin to do so in 2002 was a big event, as were his dealings with the royal family following the passing of the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. From handing official condolences to meeting the new King and Queen at Hillsborough, it was clear that Alex Maskey was prepared to represent the office of Speaker with impartiality and integrity. Many of our young citizens across Northern Ireland will remember him fondly for different reasons. Left with no MLAs to fill this building, he seized the opportunity to use this space to develop both the Northern Ireland Assembly and the Disability Assembly, providing an opportunity for voices not often heard in this chamber. So on behalf of the Alliance Party, I wish him a very happy retirement. Although if he misses sparring in the chamber too much, perhaps he could return to his boxing roots, where in the 75 fights they competed in, he lost, I believe, only 4. I'd say that perhaps we won a few more political fights than he did, but we will leave that up to the history books and the writers to decide. One thing we can be sure about is that history will remember him as a fair and impartial Speaker who steered this chamber through many difficult and momentous occasions. And just finally, Acting Speaker, just to say that the Alliance Party will be happy to support all of the nominations that have been made today for the position of Speaker, as we have done through all of the recalls that this Assembly has had. Thank you.
Thank you. I call Mr Doug Beattie.
Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker. I stand primarily to support the nomination of our candidate for Speaker, Dr Steve Aiken, an exceptional candidate who it will be fair and robust, I believe, and I think if he can get that cross-community vote, then he will add value to what we have here within the House and on this floor. But as a leader of the Ulster Unionist Party, it would be remiss of me not to look to the outgoing Speaker, Alex Maskey, and thank him for all that he has done. It has been a very difficult stint. It's been a long retirement coming, one of the longest, I suppose. I've engaged extensively, certainly around the death and the funeral of Her Majesty the Queen and the coronation of King Charles. And I thanked him then, and I thank him now for all that he did in regards to that. And I look at him now, and in front of my party, I say thank you as you move on. And I wish you all the best. I also wish the best for whoever takes over as the Speaker when the election goes. Of course, it will be Dr Steve Aiken, but I can thank him personally later on. But I'd like to thank you, Acting Speaker, for all that you've done as well. It's not easy to be thrust in there periodically and have to go through all of this process, I suppose. As far as where we stand now, look, we stand now after 2 years of not having had an executive, not having had an assembly, and we've all been frustrated in some shapes or forms. Everybody from all corners of this chamber has been frustrated. But with all of that frustration, the people who have suffered most are the people of Northern Ireland. They have really suffered, and we must remember that within our frustrations as we look forward. Because we do have a Herculean task placed in front of us now, where we have to improve the lives of the people. And I believe we can do that by making Northern Ireland a working part of the United Kingdom. I believe we need to focus on people and everything that goes with people, regardless of their religion or their sexual orientation, regardless of what community background they come from. And I think we can do that by focusing on things like the economy, because the economy will drive our infrastructure to make people more connected. It will help us with our health service. It will help us with education. It will help build houses. It will help create jobs, so our young people wake up in the morning with a sense of purpose and go to bed at night with a sense of fulfilment. It makes people connected to everything that goes on here in Northern Ireland. That's what I'm looking for going forward. But this is no panacea here. Some of the challenges ahead of us are monumental, and they will only work if we support each other. And there are opponents in here, and I absolutely get that we will have divisions and we will have arguments, but we can all move in one direction, and that is to improve the lives of the people who live here, work here and visit here. I set it down now as we go forward, regardless of who the Speaker will be, regardless who the ministers will be, that this party, the Ulster Unionist Party, will work with you to try and make this place the best place it can possibly be for the people that live here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I call Mr. Paul Given.
Speaker, I'm pleased that we have reached the stage now where we have the stable and sustainable basis to elect a Speaker and to have these institutions back up and running. It's 2 years ago to the very date whenever I resigned, something that had to bring matters to a head. That's why my leader acted decisively at that time. And having secured the necessary progress across a wide range of issues, we are now here at this point today. I'm glad that we've got to this stage. It has been a long road for us to get here, and I hope as this Assembly starts out in a renewed effort to deliver for the people, that we never again end up in a position where Unionists are discarded, where others in this House do not listen to the concerns expressed by the Unionist people, that we never have a point where every single Unionist elected member of this place has felt changes have taken place without our consent. That's been the journey that we've had to go on, often, regrettably, without the support of many people in this House, who often made issues more difficult for us to reach the point that we've got to today. But through determination, Jeffrey Donaldson has led us to this stage, and I'm proud of the work that he has put in to get us to that point, not for the DUP, but for Northern Ireland and the people of Northern Ireland. So as we step forward, let us do it in a manner that we can work together in genuine cooperation. And I believe that we've got the right person now to be the Speaker of this Assembly in Edwin Poots. Someone who I've known for a very long time. 16 years of age, when I joined the party, it was Edwin that was there. I worked for him for 1 day a week when I was 17 years of age. So I've known him for a very long period of time. I've always known him to act with absolute integrity in everything that he does. And members can rest assured there will never be anything that will cause them concern into how Edwin Poots discharges his duties as the Speaker of this Assembly. Elected here in 1998, one of only two left and still standing. Elected previously in the 96 Forum and a councillor in 1997. But he isn't the first Poots to have been elected to this Assembly. His father, Charlie Poots, the late Charlie Poots, was elected to Stormont in 1973 for what was the old North Down constituency. And I know his family are immensely proud of how Edwin Poots has continued to carry on the legacy that his father left him and the character that was instilled in him within that family. So today is an important day, I know, for Edwin, but I have to say I will miss him on these benches. I will miss him in the room upstairs where we meet and discuss how we're going to deal with business. But it's a new challenge for him and a new opportunity, and I know he will embrace that. So I'm delighted to be able to speak in favour of my good friend and colleague Edwin Poots, and I know he will do incredibly well in the position of Speaker in this Assembly.
Thank you. I call Mr. Matthew O'Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. And before I get on to moving the nomination of my friend Patsy McGlone, let me first of all pay tribute to you. You are a very experienced retailer, and you've had to do quite a lot of minding the shop in this place over the last while. You've done it with good grace and competence. And I would also like, as others have done, to pay real sincere tribute to Alex Maskey, the outgoing Speaker. Alex was a fine Speaker who had a brilliant record in terms of acting with impartiality, robustness, but also fairness in the chair. He also, as others have said, as a Republican, made real progress in terms of his outreach around cross-community work. Just last year, he and I had a very somewhat surreal moment of chatting to one another in Hillsborough Castle while we were waiting for the new king to arrive, and I think he and I were both slightly nonplussed by being there, but Alex, as always, stood up to the moment and was hugely, did himself and his party proud. Can I also say he's now been on the longest farewell tour since Springsteen, and I hope he enjoys a retirement now that the tour is coming to an end. Mr. Acting Speaker, I think this is now the 6th or 7th time I have moved a nomination for Patsy McGlone, and I'm proud to do so today. Notwithstanding the quality of the other candidates, I am sure, and indeed many others agree with me, that Patsy McGlone is the most qualified candidate to be Speaker of the Northern Ireland Assembly. He is the most experienced chair that we have. He's been an elected representative for more than 30 years, proudly serving the people of Mid-Ulster and South Derry and East Tyrone. He's been a member of this Assembly for more than 21 years. He has done that role with diligence, commitment to cross-community politics, commitment to the kind of progressive pro-reconciliation values that have always marked my party out. He is also, Mr. Acting Speaker, he would be the first fluent Gaeilgeoir to take a seat in the Speaker's chair of the Northern Ireland Assembly, given that we are now in a chamber which for the first time can do simultaneous translation for Irish speakers, and given that the Irish-speaking community is moving forward, expanding into new communities, new speakers, in a way that we're all excited about. I think it would mark a really profound moment to elect Patsy, a fluent Gaeilgeoir, to the chair. I say that notwithstanding the quality of the other candidates. We won't be supporting them, we will be supporting Patsy, but whoever is elected to the chair, we look forward to working with them positively going forward. Thank you very much.
I call Mr. Jim Allister.
Mr. Acting Speaker, this is a day of glee and gloating for republicanism as the DUP leadership returns after its seismic climb down to implement the union dismantling protocol. Despite all the fake news, despite all those attempts to spin defeat as victory, this is a climb down of monumental proportions. It's quite clear in this way. Not one word of the protocol has changed. Not one word. Northern Ireland still remains under the EU's customs code, which decrees GB to be a foreign country, and that is itself of momentous constitutional significance. We continue to be ruled in significant part by foreign laws, Annex 2 of the protocol. All 287 of those EU laws remain in place in perpetuity beyond the reach of the Stormont break, and therefore, of course, under the supervision of the European Court of Justice. We are still we still have an Irish Sea border. If the Irish Sea border was gone, then we would be dismantling, not continuing to build border posts. And yet millions of pounds are being spent in that pursuit. And under EU legislation, Northern Ireland is still determined to be EU territory. None of that has changed. And Article 6, despite the weasel attempts in the Donaldson deal to diminish its importance, is still in suspension, and with it, one of the twin pillars of this union. Northern Ireland's place is not restored within the United Kingdom. We are still constitutionally a condominium, ruled in part by UK laws and in part by foreign laws that we don't make. And all that with a partitioning border down the Irish Sea. Little wonder Sam McBride this morning in the Telegraph describes this deal as the Windsor framework in drag. And that's exactly what it is. And since it wasn't good enough, since the Windsor framework wasn't good enough to cause the DUP come back and vote in a speaker, nor is this deal to now roll over and become protocol implementers is beyond comprehension. Now, I accept that there are many in the DUP, and some of them are on these benches today, who are very unhappy with this course of action, who agree with many of the things that I am saying. And I urge them to continue to stand strong. But I do suggest this, that the moment we vote to elect a speaker, that is a vote to proceed to implement the protocol. That is a step should not be taken. Of course, as it turns out, there were lots who opposition to the protocol was all just bluff and bluster. No more than Mr. Putz himself. This is the man who told us there had to be seismic changes to the protocol. Turns out for Mr. Putz, seismic means the promise, not even the delivery, the promise of the reduction of green lane physical checks from 5% to 0. And it's not even in the legislation that was passed last week or this week. So that, for Mr. Putz, is seismic. Wow. To everyone else, it's closer to infinitesimal. So, from Mr. Seismic to Mr. Speaker, oh, the irresistible lure of office for those whose principles are expendable. For Mr. Putz, the speakership is the fruit of the poison tree, and no good can come of it.
I call Mr. Jerry Carroll.
Speaker, I want to wish you well, and also the outgoing Speaker, and they're both your retirement, a fellow colleague of mine in West Belfast, wishes both well going forward. To turn to today, after 2 years acting Speaker of divisive posturing from the DUP, working class people are in no mood for the cynical fanfare surrounding Stormont's resurrection. If I was a DUP sitting here today, I'd be utterly embarrassed by the entire debacle. Embarrassed that striking public sector workers forced you back to work, that you delivered next to nothing on the protocol, and you blatantly lied to the base you claim to represent. You put your own political interests before workers' pay, public services, and the day-to-day struggles facing working class communities, and you've been found out. Over the last few days, acting Speaker, I was on picket lines with striking education and transport workers who are out because of the Stormont return has not guaranteed the pay rise they need and deserve. They need paid now, and all workers need to be ready to challenge this new executive to deliver on their demands. People Before Profit have been consistent in calling for the DUP to end its boycott, but it would be remiss of me not to outline our firm opposition to this latest Tory DUP pact. It can be described as a Tory love letter to the DUP. It is couched in the language of the DUP. It is meant as a reward for their divisive antics. And the Tories are saying that the DUP was justified in holding people to ransom for 2 years, and that the concerns of unionism should be elevated above everything else, and that the feelings of hardline loyalists, including paramilitaries, are there to be pandered to. More importantly, acting Speaker, it contains absolutely nothing that will tackle the issues facing our communities, including poverty pay, growing inequality, hard-up schools, or our collapsing NHS. In fact, this deal signifies the exact opposite. In addition, the talk of water charges and raised rates, The deal also recommits to the devolution of corporation tax, which parties here have been itching to slash for years. Establishment parties who have heralded the changes of a new executive must think the public has collective amnesia. They think their spin, lapped up and flung out in the media will make us forget the failures of previous administrations. They think that the talk of a new dawn will hide the old, divisive and regressive politics at its very core. We remember that the DUP, Sinn Féin alliance implemented welfare reform in a previous bid to slash corporation tax, punishing the poor and the vulnerable to give handouts to the rich. Shameful. Workers will remember that these parties cut their pay and gutted public services while Stormont last sat. People languishing on health waiting lists will remember who inflicted those cuts and who opened the door to the slow privatisation of our NHS. Those waiting on a home will remember those who refused to build homes and handed land to private wealthy developers. Communities living around Lough Neagh, the Spurrins and elsewhere will remember who incentivised the destruction of our environment and poisoned our waterways. Therefore, Acting Speaker, our message is that there should be no honeymoon period for the new executive, and people must get ready, as they were this morning, to be breathing down the neck of this administration. Trade unionists outside the door today. And while the unionist establishment continues to wrangle over the protocol, unionism remains in terminal decline. The Tories have copper-fastened the Stormont break, enshrining the communal veto and in reinforcing the system of sectarianism that has afflicted the Stormont institution for years. The instability will cause not only shake the foundations of Stormont, but also shake the very foundations of the Northern State itself. And despite what the Tories have outlined, Acting Speaker, in this deal, the democratic aspiration for United Ireland will not be stymied by imperial diktat. It is for the people of Ireland to decide, and People Before Profit will continue to fight for a socialist path to United Ireland, which sees all people from all backgrounds in its spoils and the politics of sectarianism left in the past. But the Tory-DUP love letter deal is not just about strengthening the union, it's also about strengthening its militaristic aims. It will attempt to incorporate the North further into British military defence systems as the Tories beat the drum of war louder and louder. Therefore, this new executive has a question to answer. Will they roll over as the Tories drag us into war in Europe and the Middle East, or will they really stand for peace on the global stage? I think also people have to know that the mass Palestine solidarity movement that has exploded across the world and on this island will not tolerate the North having any part to play in funding the apartheid state in Israel. And more on that later.
Thank you. I call Mr. Mike Nesbitt.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Sorry, I didn't hear you there. I just want to say a few words in praise of the outgoing Speaker. I came here in 2011 as a rookie Ulster Unionist to encounter a well-seasoned Republican in Mr. Maskey, and very quickly came to realise, to my surprise, that we could work very harmoniously, much more harmoniously than in our previous encounters as interviewee and interviewer at Ulster Television, when Mr. Maskey used to come in, particularly on a Thursday night, for the politics. And I remember one night the editor whispering in my earpiece, "If you push him any harder, he may deck you." But he never did. And here we served together on the committee of the Office of First Minister and Deputy First Minister, scrutinising the work of the Executive Office. It is a matter of record that over the last nearly 26 years, that is the only committee that has ever single-handedly put through a piece of legislation through this House. And that was the Northern Ireland Public Service Ombudsman Bill, which became an act. It took a long time. I had the pleasure of steering as chair the last few passages. And it wasn't without its challenges to Republican ideology. But Mr. Maskey took a view that was very practical and pragmatic, that the prize was worth paying a little price for, and the price did not compromise his principles. And I very much appreciate, Mr. Maskey, what you did in steering the Sinn Féin group through that committee. I think we all can agree on what he did in that chair, the neutrality, the friendliness, the professionalism. But of course, a lot of the work of the Speaker we don't see. It's meeting and greeting. It's promoting this institution. And a little while ago, I was asked by the Northern Ireland Centre of Competitiveness if I would entertain the worldwide global president who they were flying into Belfast in the hope of attracting an annual conference. So they were coming up here one Friday morning, and I sent a message to Mr. Maskey, could you join us at 11 o'clock for a cup of coffee up in the members' bar? And the answer came back straight away, no. No, I won't. You come and I will entertain you in the Speaker's office. And that's what he did, a much more impressive greeting than I could have offered upstairs. And not only did he spend a lot of time chatting in the Speaker's office, when I said I was now taking this worldwide president on the tour of the building, he came with us, and at one point we left Mr. Maskey and the President in the Senate chamber, where they spent over 15 minutes as he charmed her into agreeing to bring that conference to Northern Ireland. And that's the sort of thing that he's been doing for the last 3 years, which we haven't seen. But it's been incredibly important in terms of this institution, particularly at a time when in the court of public opinion we don't always necessarily score a straight 10. So Mr. Maskey, I thank you and I wish you every success and happiness as you open the next chapter. I'm just going to finish, Acting Speaker, by expressing regret that Mr. Allister wouldn't take an intervention, and for those of you wondering what I was going to say, it was simply this. If his analysis is correct, why has he ended his boycott of this building?
Members, intend, since there are no other speakers have indicated, I intend now to put the question. The question is that Mr. Edmund Poots be Speaker of this Assembly. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. No. Aye. The House will divide. Clear the lobbies. The question will be put in 3 minutes. Thank you. The question is that Mr. Edwin Poots be Speaker of the Assembly. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary of any, no. No. Do we have tellers? Order, please. Tailors have been appointed as follows. Tailors for the ayes are David Brooks and Diane Forsyth. Tailors for the noes are Colin McGrath and Daniel McCrossan. Clear the lobbies. The Assembly will divide. Ayes to my right, noes to my left. Secure the doors, please.
Whatever view the chair takes, they take.
Noticed that during our previous proceedings that at this point everybody sort of feels the need to fall silent. In actual fact, you can still communicate. There's no. Members, please resume your seats, and I will formally ask you now to be quiet. Thank you. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the result, please.
76 members voted, of which 67 voted aye, 88.2%. 33 nationals voted, of which 25 voted aye, 75.8%. 26 unionists voted, of which 25 voted aye, 96.2%. 17 others voted, of which 17 voted aye, 100%. The motion is carried by cross-community support. Mr. Edmund Pitts is elected as Speaker of this Assembly.
I formally declare that Mr. Edmund Pitts has been elected as Speaker, and I invite him to take the chair. Unfasten the doors. Oops.
First of all, can I thank Mr. Alan Chambers, who's presided over this election of Speaker for the 7th time. And anybody who knows anything about their Bible, 7 is the number of perfection, so we actually got it right this time. You won't have a perfect Speaker, I can assure you, but you'll have one who will do their best to ensure the smooth running of this House with impartiality and with integrity. I want to acknowledge the contribution of our outgoing Speaker, Mr. Maskey. Mr. Maskey came to this place in 1998. Mr. Kelly's still here from 1998, and myself, and we were the 3 last people standing. Whenever I came, I was a relatively young person in my early 30s. These gentlemen were more middle-aged, but nonetheless, Mr. Maskey and I would have engaged in many a boxing match in this chamber and in committees and so forth over the years. But we came to an understanding over the years of each other, and it ended up that we were able to work together progressively on many issues. And certainly in his contribution as Speaker, he did indeed conduct that role with complete fairness and impartiality. And I commend him for the work that he'd done as Speaker over the past 4 years, sometimes in difficult and trying circumstances, but nonetheless conducted with professionalism. And I wish him well as he retires, and I hope that he has a healthy and happy retirement. I recognise that as I move into this office as Speaker, it's a very different role from the one that I've held, and I suppose in many ways I've been one of those people who's been always up for the battle and up for the fight, and ready to get in there for the challenge. And now I have to calm it all down, so it's quite a challenge for me, I'd have to say. Bit of a poacher turned gamekeeper, but nonetheless, we'll hopefully that'll all go well. But I do look forward to working with all of you in this Assembly. I think there's been considerable progress made over the course of the last number of months, and I'm absolutely delighted that we have been able to get this Assembly up and running again, because there's so much to do out there for the public. And I trust that we will all put our shoulders to the wheel to do that to the best of our ability. And I truly hope that this Assembly never is suspended again, that this Assembly will move forward together in the best interests of everyone in Northern Ireland. And I think we're mindful of the huge range of issues that are out there, and I will seek to be a facilitator to an executive which I sincerely hope really drives things forward. And therefore, our focus will be on getting down to business and getting down to it quickly. And I commend the executive next week to be getting on with making really important decisions, because that needs to happen. So in that context, thank you all for those who voted for me. Thank you all for those who didn't vote for me for your participation today, and I look forward to working with all of you over the course of the next number of years, God giving us health to do so. So a number of members have indicated that they wish to respond, and I would remind members that they may speak only once in the course of the debate, and members have up to 3 minutes in which to speak. So the first member whose name's down here is Mr. John Blair.
Mr. Speaker, it strikes me immediately, of course, that I'm the first to address you in the post, and it's with pleasure that I extend to you congratulations and very good wishes on behalf of those of us on the Alliance Party benches, and to do so on a day, Mr. Speaker, as we make progress here in this place, and the progress which the people of Northern Ireland have wanted and waited for and needed for the past 2 years. Of course, reflecting on your previous comments there, Mr. Speaker, I can't help today making a comparison to our previous exchanges in this place when you were in your previous role as Dairy Minister, and I was here in my role as party spokesperson. Now, of course, we disagreed once or twice a week, either at plenary question time or in committee. I'm making my light-hearted comments, Mr. Speaker, because I also wanted to say to the House and publicly that, in truth, you were always in that role, available to and accessible to members of that committee, whatever their politics or the disagreement at hand, and it was appreciated. I have no doubt you will bring those characteristics of approachability and accessibility and good working relations to the role of Speaker, and add to that your own knowledge of this place, first of all, and your public declared support for devolution and for the success of this Assembly. So I want to just close on 2 points. First of all, Mr. Speaker, if you don't mind, I want to add the comments made earlier about the previous Speaker, Alex Maskey, and I want to put on record what a pleasure it was for me to work with him on the Assembly Commission. I have no doubt you will have the same good and positive working relationships with all members. And also, finally, to say it's my and our sincere wish that you will have the full support of members across the Assembly to conduct business here properly and make progress on the legislation and the delivery that the people we represent are waiting for and deserve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call Mr. O'Toole.
Mr. Speaker, I may first of all say, though we didn't vote for you, we're delighted to see you in the chair. Many congratulations. It is now, after 6 or 7 times of asking, an immense relief to all of us to finally elect a new chair of the Northern Ireland Assembly. Can I say, like Mr. Blair, I have had over the last few years many political differences with the new Speaker, but there has always been an acknowledgement of your seriousness, your commitment to Northern Ireland, and indeed your pragmatism when it comes to the issues that face us. So I hope you bring those same qualities to the chair. Might I also say, if you'll permit me, Mr. Speaker, a little special pleading. Given it looks like we don't know yet our party will be the only party of opposition today, I would gently point out there's 8 of us. There's 8 of us'ns and 80 of them'ns. So give us a fair crack of the whip when you're in the chair. But let me repeat my congratulations, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the fact that we supported another candidate today. We are very pleased to see you in the chair. We wish you well. Yes, I'm happy to give way.
Thanks very much. As the other candidate, would I add my congratulations to the Speaker, or as I know him, Edwin. He and I go back quite a number of years from our time in local government and in local government organisations. And I would like to think that over that time we built a respect and indeed a friendship with one another, where we could sit down and talk politics readily, respectfully, and achieve solutions. And I know that ability to achieve solutions and hopefully to bring people together in a conducive atmosphere, as we are now facing into a new future with a new Assembly, that will be the incentive to move this place forward, to act in the best interests of all our people, and to work for all our people together. So congratulations to you, Mr. Speaker, or Edwin, as I know you.
That was a very indulgent intervention you allowed, Mr. Speaker, so I won't say anything more. All the best in the role.
I call Mr. Allister.
Mr. Speaker, as a member of this House, I respect the office of Speaker, and accordingly, since you now fill it, I wish you well in that regard. to the disappointment of the protocol implementers, I will be here, and I will be here as a thorn in the side, as I've had to be in the past. And when it comes to that, Mr. Speaker, I will probably test your patience and certainly test your impartiality. But when I test you, just remember it was 1,000 TUV transfers that elected you to this House on the 5th count in South Belfast.
I call Mr. Given.
You, Mr. Speaker, can I now formally congratulate you on being successfully elected into the position that you hold, and I trust you will give all members of this House the same latitude that you always wished a Speaker would have gave to you whenever you were a member of this House, and whenever the boundaries are tested, you will be very forgiving, and I have no doubt you will do that to all of us in equal measure, not showing any favouritism now to this side of the House. I do think it is worth putting on the record my disappointment at the very personal, bitter contribution from Mr. Allister. Mr. Speaker, he is an angry man, and I can understand why, because he has achieved absolutely nothing in order to have these institutions restored. And in his own contribution, he again was incapable of responding to the challenge by my party leader to provide any evidence of what he has achieved, because it is nothing. I understand, Mr. Speaker, why he is angry and shouting at me, because his political career has been one marked with failure. Even within the DUP, a poor substitute for the late Dr. Paisley, he cost us votes when he was our candidate for Europe. Mr. Speaker, when he stood to be a candidate in Westminster, he failed again to Ian Paisley. By his own test, and we measure him against his test, for the election to this Assembly, he said it would be a failure if he returned on his own. And he's here on his own. So his test that he set, he failed because he is a political failure, a dead-end unionist. When we in the Democratic Unionist Party are on the front foot leading for unionism, and we will build the unionist community, not divide it like the member for North Antrim.
I call Ms. Sinead Innes.
Can I just say, first of all, I wish you well in your election of Speaker. At the umpteenth time of trying, we've eventually passed that hurdle. And while today is a monumental day, it's an historic day, a day of change, we will have very little time for patting ourselves on the back or bickering among each other, because the public out there have an expectation that we will get on with the job and we will deliver for them, because we know there are big challenges ahead of us. We're up for that challenge, and I know that will involve lively debates, but it will also involve us working together to achieve all those things that our electorate want us to achieve. So I wish you well in adjudicating those debates. I'm sure you will do so with impartiality and with a tone of respect, and we will certainly be up for reflecting that, and I hope that is reflected right across the chamber. So once again, congratulations and best of luck for the time ahead.
Can I thank all of the members who have spoken? We'll now move to the election of the Deputy Speakers. So in accordance with Section 79 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998, we now commence the election of Deputy Speakers. The procedures for electing Deputy Speakers will be the same as for the election of Speaker. I'll ask for proposals which must be seconded. I will then confirm that the member accepts the nomination, and will continue in this way until there are no further proposals. I remind members that a debate may take place after I announce that time for proposals is passed, during which members will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. Do I have any proposals for the office of Deputy Speaker of the Assembly? Ms Nicolan has been proposed. Is there a seconder?
Second that, Concordia.
Ms Nicolan, do you accept the proposal?
I accept.
Thank you. Is there any further proposals? Ms Bradshaw.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Alliance Party, I would like to nominate my colleague John Blair. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Blair, are you prepared to accept the nomination?
Happy to accept, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Is there any further proposals? Yes, Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Speaker, can I congratulate you on your new role as Chief of the Ulster Unionist Party? Look forward to working with you through the Business Committee. And can I nominate Dr. Steve Aiken, MLA?
Is there a seconder for Dr. Aiken?
I second that.
Dr. Aiken, do you accept the proposal?
I accept the proposal.
Okay. Are there any further proposals? Okay. Thank you. Right. The time for proposals has expired. A number of members have been. Well, is there anybody who's indicated they wish to speak? Mr. Kelly.
I think I should put on record, as although myself and Alec are older than you, we still feel a little middle-aged. It's more an honour to tackle Carl Killen on Foshaw. It's my great privilege to support Carl Killen, MLA, for the position of Deputy Speaker. Carl's a friend I have known for many decades, and throughout all that time she has been a steadfast and determined advocate for the people from North Belfast and a relentless voice for the least well off in all our communities, determined to ensure that the key principles of respect, equality and tolerance are hardwired into the institutions and indeed to society. She's been a member of this Assembly since 2007, serving as Decal and Communities Minister, as well as acting as Sinn Féin's Chief Whip. So she has enormous experience in these institutions. She knows what it takes to ensure they function as they should, and I have no doubt she will bring the benefit of that experience to the position of Deputy Speaker. I also know she will bring to this role, her characteristic straight-talking and no-nonsense approach, which I have often witnessed at first hand, I have to say, which will ensure that this chamber provides a platform for respectful, positive and productive debate. Carl is a huge asset to these institutions, and we are privileged to have her, and I am delighted to support her for the position of Deputy Chief Constable. I have to retract about feeling middle-aged, right? I feel a lot older after that. But to set the record straight, since this will be all over the news, Deputy Speaker today, Carl, you would have made a very good Chief Constable as well.
I call Ms Bradshaw. You can follow that.
I know, I'm not sure I can follow that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and as a fellow South Belfast MLA, I'd like to congratulate you and wish you well in your new role as Speaker. I am delighted to nominate my colleague and friend John Blair to this position of Deputy Speaker today. I first met John over 20 years ago on a district policing partnership, and I saw then, as I have seen since, a very hard-working individual who is committed to making Northern Ireland a better place for everyone to live. For those of you who have served on a committee with John, including the Policing Board, you will know that he is fair and considerate, and he just likes to get on with business. I know that he will be perfect for this role of Deputy Speaker, and that he will treat every member of this chamber without bias or favour. So I ask members to support our nomination for John Blair and vote for him as Deputy Whip. Oh, sorry. Oh, goodness, what's going on today? Deputy Speaker.
Okay, order. There's no further speakers, so we'll move to the question. And the first question is that Carl Killen be Deputy Speaker of the Assembly. So all those in favour, please state aye. Aye. Contrary, if any, no.
No.
As there are ayes from all sides of the House and only one no from Mr Alistair, I am satisfied that cross-community support has been demonstrated, so I congratulate you, Mr Killian, on being Deputy Speaker. I now move to the next nomination, and that's of Mr John Blair. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, if any? No. As there are ayes from all sides of the House and only one no from Mr Alistair, I am satisfied that the cross-community support has been demonstrated, and therefore confirm and congratulate Mr Blair as Deputy Speaker. We move then to the third nomination, which is Dr Steve Aiken. And all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, if any? As there are ayes from all sides of the House and only one no from Mr Alistair, I am satisfied that cross-community support has been demonstrated, and therefore congratulate Dr Aiken. You are now a Deputy Speaker. I formally declare... All three Deputy Speakers have been elected, and that concludes this item of business. I offer my congratulations to the successful candidates and look forward to working with all of the Deputy Speakers. Standing orders require there to be 3 Deputy Speakers. Next item on the order paper is a motion to appoint the Business Committee, and as with similar motions, this will be treated as a business motion, so there will be no debate. Clerk, please read the motion.
That the following shall be appointed to be members of the Business Committee: the Speaker, ex officio, Ms. Paula Bradshaw, Mr. David Brooks, Mr. Trevor Clark, Mr. Mark Durkin, Mr. Tom Elliott, Ms. Sinead Ennis, Ms. Nuala McAllister, Mr. Colin McGrath, Mr. Philip McGuigan, Mr. John Stewart.
I beg to move. The question is that the motion standing in the order paper be agreed. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, if any? No. As all the ayes come from all of the sides of the House and there's only one no from Mr Alistair, I am satisfied that cross-community support has been demonstrated. The next item of business is the appointment of the First and Deputy First Minister. I will conduct the process of filling the offices in accordance with the procedures set out in Section 16A of the Northern Ireland Act 1998 and Standing Order 44(1). I will begin by asking the nominating officer of the largest political party to nominate a member of the Assembly to be the First Minister. I will then ask the nominating officer of the largest political party of the largest political designation to nominate a member of the Assembly to the Deputy First Minister. As the persons nominated to fill the vacancies shall not take up office, and each of them has affirmed As the persons nominated to fill the vacancies shall not take up office until each of them has affirmed the terms of the pledge of office contained in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998. When I receive both the nominations, I will ask each of the persons nominated to accept the nomination and affirm the terms of the pledge of office. Before we proceed, members may find it helpful if the pledge of office is read onto the record. I will ask the clerk to read the pledge of office.
The pledge of office is as follows: to pledge to discharge in good faith all the duties of office, commitment to non-violence and exclusively peaceful and democratic means, to serve all the people of Northern Ireland equally, and to act in accordance with the general obligations on government to promote equality and prevent discrimination, to promote the interests of the whole community represented in the Northern Ireland Assembly towards the goal of a shared future, to participate fully in the Executive Committee, the North-South Ministerial Council and the British-Irish Council, to observe the joint nature of the offices of First Minister and Deputy First Minister, to uphold the rule of law based as it is on the fundamental principles of fairness, impartiality and democratic accountability, including support for policing and the courts as set out in paragraph 6 of the St Andrews Agreement, to support the rule of law unequivocally in word and deed, and to support all efforts to uphold it, to work collectively with the other members of the Executive Committee to achieve a society free of paramilitarism, to challenge all paramilitary activity and associated criminality, to call for and to work together with the other members of the Executive Committee to achieve the disbandment of all paramilitary organisations and their structures, to challenge paramilitary attempts to control communities, to support those who are determined to make the transition away from paramilitarism, to accept no authority, direction or control on my political activities other than my democratic mandate alongside my own personal and party judgment, to participate with colleagues in the preparation of a programme for government, to operate within the framework of that programme when agreed within the Executive Committee and endorsed by the Assembly, to support and act in accordance with all decisions of the Executive Committee and Assembly, to comply with the Ministerial Code of Conduct. Paragraph 6 of the St Andrews Agreement says, "We believe that the essential elements of support for law and order include endorsing fully the Police Service of Northern Ireland and the criminal justice system, actively encouraging everyone in the community to cooperate fully with the PSNI in tackling crime in all areas and actively supporting all the policing and criminal justice institutions, including the Policing Board."
No point of orders at this point. Members, the pledge of office has now been read into the record of proceedings, and I'll proceed with the nomination process. I received notification from the nominating officer of Sinn Féin advising me that Ms Aisling Riley will be serving as nominating officer for the party for this item of business. I call Ms Riley to nominate a member of the Assembly to be the First Minister. I allow her up to 3 minutes to say a few words in support of the nomination.
It is a great privilege for me personally to rise today, and I know I speak for every single one of us here now, for the generation before us, for the generation of the future, and for those who are no longer with us, who have made a day like this possible and will be as proud as I am. I am delighted that this is happening today and that we'll now have a functioning executive and assembly so we can deliver for the people that we represent. As a child growing up in West Belfast, a day like today seemed unimaginable. It seemed unimaginable for our parents, for our grandparents, but nothing is impossible. Here we are, and for the first time, an Irish Republican takes up the position of First Minister, who will lead with determination, with a true vision for change, and will be a First Minister for all. I am therefore honoured and proud to nominate Michelle O'Neill to the position of First Minister.
Ms O'Neill, are you willing to take up the office of First Minister and affirm the terms of the pledge of office?
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of First Minister, and I affirm the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
I have received a letter from the nominating officer of the DUP advising me that Mr Keith Buchanan will serve as nominating officer for this item of business. I call Mr Buchanan to nominate a member of the Assembly to the Deputy First Minister. I allow him up to 3 minutes to say a few words in support of the nomination.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On behalf of the Democratic Unionist Party, I nominate Emma Little-Pengelly, MLA. Thank you.
Order. Ms Little-Pengelly, are you willing to take up the office of Deputy First Minister and affirm the terms of the pledge of office?
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Deputy First Minister, and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
There will be an opportunity for speeches, and I'll begin by calling the First Minister and then the Deputy First Minister to address the Assembly. I call the First Minister, Ms Michelle O'Neill.
It's more an honour due Shasu and Shaw Mar Friovara. Today opens the door to a future, a shared future. I am honoured to stand here as First Minister. We mark a moment of equality and a moment of progress, a new opportunity to work and to grow together. Confident in that wherever we come from, whatever our aspirations are, we can and we must build our future together. I'm really delighted to see every MLA back in this chamber today, and I welcome the fact that the DUP have decided to re-enter the democratic institutions and that the outcome of last year's Assembly election is now being respected. And I also look forward to a meeting of the North-South Ministerial Council shortly. The power-sharing coalition that is being formed here today by the parties must now dedicate itself to delivering an ambitious agenda for change. I wish all incoming ministers well, and I pledge to work with you all and to collaborate with you all. The public are now relying on each of us to act in their best interests, to serve our whole community with good faith. We must make power sharing work because collectively we are all charged with leading and delivering for our people. In common cause, we must work to make life better for workers, for families and communities, to create hope and opportunity. We must be respectful of each other. The days of second-class citizenship are long gone, and today confirms that they will never come back. As an Irish Republican, I pledge cooperation and genuine honest effort with all those colleagues of a unionist tradition who cherish the Union. This is an assembly for all, Catholic, Protestant and dissenter. Despite our different outlooks and our different views in the future constitutional position, the public rightly demand that we work together and that we deliver together. And also that we must build trust and confidence in our ability to collectively do that. And that will require courage, it will require ambition, not just from those of us that are elected, but also from the public. And if we all can invest in this, and the more of us do that, then the better chance it has to succeed. Now, this power-sharing coalition will undoubtedly face great challenges, and there are many nettles for us to grasp. The rising cost of living has been a heavy burden on many households and businesses, and there are people out there that are living hand to mouth, and they need our help. There are too many patients waiting for treatments and support. Our teachers, our nurses, all our public sector workers are being forced onto the picket lines, and that demands urgent action from us. There's no escaping the impact of Tory austerity. It has badly damaged our public services. They have presided over more than a decade of shame, and they have caused real suffering to the people that we represent. I wish to lead an executive which has the freedom to make our own policy and spending choices. We cannot continue to be hamstrung to the Tories in London. So together we must unite, and we equally must fight with one voice the corner of everybody that we represent, every citizen in this society, and we must fight for properly funded public services. Now, I know that we have many shared priorities, and those will be reflected today. But we must deliver more. We must deliver more on affordable childcare and support to support workers and families. We must deliver more on social and affordable homes, because everybody has the right to call somewhere their home. We must transform our health and social care system, and we must ensure that children with additional needs have first-class support. Key infrastructure developments such as the A5, the A29 road schemes, Casement Park and other signature projects will be delivered so that we can enhance connectivity and support communities. Regional balance and the continued investment in Derry and the North West are essential. We must work together to mitigate the climate catastrophe. We must protect Lough Neagh and realise its massive potential. With new leadership in the Economy Department, we will work in partnership with businesses, the trade union movement, education providers and the community and voluntary sector to improve economic performance. A reformed InvestNI will be required to promote regional balance, because everybody should share in the benefits of prosperity. We will now begin to seize the considerable opportunities that are created by the Windsor Framework, to use our dual market access to grow our exports and attract higher quality FDI, and to realise the all-island economy's potential. We must do more to shape the type of society that we live in. Violence against women and girls is an epidemic, and it's an emergency, and it requires urgent action. That means every one of us working collectively to challenge misogyny and sexist attitudes that have led and continue to lead to violence against women. As political leaders, we need women and girls out there in our society to know that we have their backs, that we are looking after them, and that we are going to bring in laws to protect them. One of the first actions this incoming executive must take is to introduce the new strategy to tackle violence against women and girls, and I know that we are all committed to doing that. Mr. Speaker, our society is becoming increasingly diverse, as reflected in the census results, and that is something that is to be respected and also something to be celebrated. Everyone from every section of this society must know that they matter and that we care. Last year, we marked 25 years of peace, and the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. And that was a political accommodation that provided a peaceful and a democratic alternative to 30 years of conflict. So we all know, collectively we all know, as a society we know the value of peace. And today we are all heartbroken for the suffering of the Palestinian people. And I call today in this chamber for an immediate ceasefire, for dialogue and for peace. I was a 20-year-old mother at the time of our agreement, and I remember vividly the sense of hope and that real feeling of optimism. And I go right in behind the politics, and I have worked since then to build the peace. There is no question that our society has been fundamentally transformed because of our peace process. I stand here proud and elected First Minister, as someone who represents that Good Friday Agreement generation, and someone who will lead us into the next 25 years. I'm also an Ulster woman, a Tyrone woman, a deeply proud Irish and European citizen. And this is an historic day, and it does represent a new dawn. For the very first time, a nationalist takes up the position of First Minister. That such a day would ever come was unimaginable to my parents' and grandparents' generation. But because of the Good Friday Agreement, that old state that they were born into is now gone, and a more democratic and a more equal society exists. And this is now a better place for all of us. This place that we call home, that we all love, the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, where you can be British, Irish, both or none, is all a changing portrait. But yesterday is gone. Today is a new day, and I think my appointment today reflects the change that's happening. Now, I am a Republican. I will serve everyone equally and be a First Minister for all. To all of you who are British and Unionist, your national identity, your cultures, your traditions are important to me. I will be both inclusive and respectful to you all. None of us are being asked to surrender who we are. Our allegiances are equally legitimate. But let's walk this two-way street together. Let's meet one another halfway. I will be doing so with an open hand and also with heart. Much suffering and trauma persists in our society as a result of the injustices and the tragedies of the past. We must never forget all those who have died or been injured, or their families. I am sorry for all the lives lost during the conflict, without exception. As First Minister, I am wholeheartedly committed to continuing the work of reconciliation between all of our people. The past cannot be changed or cannot be undone, but what we can do, what we all can do, is build a better future. I will never ask anyone to move on, but I really do hope that we can all move forward. I want us to walk in harmony and friendship. My eyes are firmly fixed on the future, looking towards that future where we unify people and society. Every generation must write its own chapter and define its own legacy. Scotland's greatest Irishman, James Connolly, proclaimed, what are my ambitions for our young people? Our demands, most moderate. We only want the earth. It's my dream that our children and grandchildren will achieve beyond all of our wildest dreams and all of our wildest ambitions. I believe in our young people. They can change our society. Indeed, they can change the world if we only give them the chance. So let that be our legacy. Let our legacy be that chance, that freedom for every young person out there, for every child. 1998 opened up a new horizon of hope and optimism. Now in 2024, let's give today's generation everything that they deserve. Gurmila Mayagov.
I now call the Deputy First Minister, Ms Emma Little-Pengilly.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. First of all, can I congratulate you on being elected by both sides of this House to serve as Speaker. I know that you will carry out your duties with diligence, which you are known for, and with great dedication. And as one of the class of 1998, you have unrivalled experience on these benches, and I look forward to working with you and the rest of your team in the Speaker's office. I also wish the outgoing Speaker well in his retirement and thank him sincerely for his service to the House. Michelle O'Neill and I come from very different backgrounds. But regardless of that, for my part, I will work tirelessly to ensure that we can deliver for all in Northern Ireland. I recognise that for many today, it is an historic moment with the nomination of Michelle O'Neill and myself as First Ministers. It is a day that confirms the democratic outcome of the election. Mr. Speaker, serving people in this House in any role is an honour and a privilege. It is an opportunity to shape Northern Ireland for the better and to make a meaningful difference. I love Northern Ireland. I am deeply proud to be from this place we call home. Despite our often troubled history and divisions of the past, I know that we have incredible potential. As a young girl sitting in Market Hill High School almost 30 years ago, I could never have imagined that one day I would have the opportunity to serve in such a way. This is a responsibility and an honour that I will never take for granted. Each and every day, I will strive to make this place the very best it can be. I thank Sir Geoffrey and Deputy Leader Gavin Robinson for their support by being here today, their leadership in getting us to this point, and for the great honour of being asked to step up and serve. Mr. Speaker, like so many across this chamber and throughout Northern Ireland, I grew up with conflict. As a child of just 11, I stepped outside my Market Hill home on a warm August afternoon to the absolute devastation from an IRA bomb. Seared within my experience is that haunting wail of alarms and of our emergency services, the carpet of glass and debris, the shock, the crying, and the panic that shook and destroyed that place I called home. I am thankful that our young people today do not have to face that terror that so many of us here did. But as a child, I didn't understand the politics of it. But I will never forget the fear, the hurt, and the anger. There are moments in each of our lives that shape us. The past, with all its horror, can never be forgotten, and nor will it be allowed to be rewritten. But while we are shaped by the past, we are not defined by it. The experience of my childhood gave me the drive and desire to make a different future, not just for myself, but to do all that I could and can to ensure a better future for all of us. Across this chamber, we have different political viewpoints and experiences. But what we also know is that the wee mummy waiting on her cancer diagnosis is not defined as being Republican or Unionist. She is defined by the sleepless nights and worry that she may never see her children grow up. The daddy fighting to get the right educational support for his child is not defined by orange or green, but by the stress and anxiety for the future of the child they love. Let this be our inspiration, for those are the issues that we can agree on. The challenges so many families face throughout Northern Ireland are the same, no matter where or what we are or believe. It is those shared problems that are blighting too many lives that we can work constructively, urgently together to improve. But we must learn the lessons of the last 7 years, whatever path we're going to take, on health service reform, schools reform, improving our public services, and to make this place a thriving and flourishing Northern Ireland it can be. We will only succeed by walking that path side by side and not by the dismissing and demeaning of the concerns of each other. There can be no dominating from one to the other, but a new approach of recognising the concerns of each other and finding solutions together. We are all born equal, and the people who look on this sitting today demand us to work together. Michelle is an Irish Republican, and I am a very proud Unionist. We will never agree on those issues, but what we can agree on is that cancer doesn't discriminate and our hospitals need fixed. We can agree that too many mummies and some daddies are having to give up work because childcare is too expensive. We agree that our teachers need supported and equipped to teach, and that our public sector workers need properly paid. We all agree that drugs destroys communities and the police needs the resources to put the dealers out of business. And what we can all agree with is that economic prosperity is the game changer for every community. Mr. Speaker, let us be a source of hope to those young people watching today, not one of despair. Let us prove that difference is something that can be a strength through recognition and respect. That difference need not be a barrier to progress and delivery. This is my pledge. I love this place we call home. I will work tirelessly for delivery for all the people of Northern Ireland from every background. I will do so with the best of my abilities, honoured by the privilege and opportunity to do so. Let's do it side by side, and let's keep Northern Ireland moving forward.
I now confirm the First Minister and Deputy First Ministers have taken office, and I offer them my congratulations. There will now be an opportunity for a representative from each of the parties to speak. Members should limit their remarks to not more than 3 minutes. I have the name of some members who have already indicated that they wish to speak, but I could ask all members who would like to contribute on behalf of their party to approach the desk and add their name to the speaking list. I call Ms Naomi Long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It has taken 2 years, and at times it has, I think, seemed like a vain hope that we would reach this point. But it is a good day for Northern Ireland that we stand here today with you in the chair and with a First and Deputy First Minister confirmed in office. I want first of all to congratulate you personally in your election as Speaker. We supported you in the lobby. We will no doubt on occasion challenge you in the chamber, but we look forward to working with you, and you have our respect and cooperation as we move forward. I also want to extend my congratulations to the First and Deputy First Minister, to Michelle and to Emma. It is a huge burden to lead the executive, particularly in the challenging times in which we find ourselves, but I have no doubt whatsoever that you will be up to that task. There are many pressing issues ahead for that executive to tackle, none more fundamental than negotiating a proper funding formula with His Majesty's Treasury to place our public finances on a sustainable footing. Addressing public sector pay as a matter of urgency, delivering health transformation and stabilisation, tackling education funding and reform, and particular provision for those with additional needs, delivering justice and security and peace of mind to our constituents, but also supporting a dynamic and thriving economy are essential elements of building that more shared, equitable, prosperous and peaceful society to which Alliance has always been committed. As I drove up the path this morning, I saw young families make their way to the playgrounds, and it reminded me of the pressures faced by many of those young parents in terms of childcare. And I think it would be remiss of me not to mention that that also must be a priority for an incoming executive. We desire to see a united community, one in which we can embrace our diversity, not deny it, embrace it and celebrate it with confidence and in security. Whilst our focus today is rightly on the future, we must also reflect on the damage caused by the instability of our institutions over the last number of years. Stop-start government has played a major role in deepening the crises in our public services, finances and across society. Alliance will continue to pursue sensible reform of our institutions to ensure that no single party can ever hold our institutions to ransom again. For these institutions, Mr. Speaker, are not the property or the plaything of any of us in this House. They belong to the people who elected us. I am determined to work to ensure that this executive and this assembly are not just stable but effective and deliver positive change for those people. I believe we do that best when we do it together, and I look forward to this mandate making real progress.
Mr. O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr Speaker, as we walk down the stairs into Stormont's Great Hall, we pass the figure of James Craig, Northern Ireland's first Prime Minister, the man who built this building and this state in his image. Whatever one's view of him, Craig was a far-sighted strategist. But even he was unlikely to have foreseen today's events. The state he constructed was not meant to have people like Michelle O'Neill in charge. But here she is, a Republican woman taking the First Minister's office. On behalf of the SDLP First Minister, warm congratulations. And congratulations, Deputy First Minister. We sincerely wish you both well. First Minister, you have waited with patience and good grace to take up a post to which you were freely elected 2 years ago, but have been blocked taking up ever since. It is, as you said, a profoundly symbolic moment that we should all acknowledge. It is, Mr Speaker, also true to say that this place, Northern Ireland, the north of Ireland, has had many symbolic moments. Firsts, lasts, handshakes, ceremonies and milestones. What our people need now is delivery. Symbolism will not pay teachers or nurses. Selfies won't cut waiting lists. We need an executive to be focused on resuscitating collapsed public services and helping our demoralised workers. We needed to address ecological catastrophe in our greatest natural resource, to help exhausted parents with the crippling cost of childcare, to take economic advantage of our unique trading position. But to do any of this, we need to be here. Today's restoration comes after 2 years of chaos. In 2020, the restoration came after 3 years. First and Deputy First Minister, while I congratulated you both of your parties have collapsed these institutions in the last 7 years. If they are collapsed again, I don't think they'll ever restart. But only 2 people have the power to stop that happening. Both of you. So, my first act, leading the SDLP opposition in this reformed assembly, is to ask both of you to add to the pledge of office you have just taken. Will you both now, in this chamber, pledge to all the people of the North that for the duration of this mandate, you will not use your power under the Northern Ireland Act to collapse devolution by resigning your office? I'm happy to give way to either the First or Deputy First Minister. I'll follow up in writing, Mr Speaker. I'll give way to the First Minister.
With all due respect, I don't think this is a day for stunts, but let us all collectively work together to ensure that this is sustainable, that this is lasting, and that we do right for the people that we collectively serve. We choose to be in the Assembly and in the Executive because we want to make a difference. I am here, I have turned up, I think everybody has turned up today, and we should be grateful for that, but more than that, we should actually get down to the business of delivering.
I thank the First Minister honestly for her answer. I did ask that neither party chooses to collapse the institutions. People out there want to know that isn't going to happen again. Mr Speaker, this place has changed. We are a plural society, but we have struggled to combine inclusive governance with effective governance. This is the last chance we have to get it right for the people we serve. The SDLP's job as a constructive opposition is not, as some have said, to tear lumps out of anyone. It is to bring long-awaited accountability, to lift up our democracy, to lift up our people, to deliver hope, change and ambition in equal measure. Our collective job is to finally prove that this place can work. So once we've finished with the ceremony today, let's get down to that work.
I call Mr Jim Allister.
Mr Speaker, now comes the consummation of the Donaldson deal with the DUP enthroning a Sinn Féin First Minister, with the unelected bridesmaid as deputy. David Trimble had his well done David moment of endorsement from IRA leader Gerry Adams. Now the leader of the DUP has his well done Jeffrey moment as he gives us a First Minister who wallows in glorification of terrorism and tells us there was no alternative to the murder of our kith and kin, no alternative to Amon, no alternative to Enniskillen, no alternative to T-Ban, no alternative to Kings Mills or to Market Hill, and no alternative to the incineration of a young woman, Yvonne Dunlop, in my constituency in Ballymena, whose vile murderer, McElwee, Miss O'Neill celebrates every year. This year, she will do so as First Minister. Well done, Jeffrey. this is the woman that now has oversight of victims' policy. And let it never be forgotten that we now have a First Minister under the direction and control of the IRA Army Council. Not just my belief, the unaltered assessment, police assessment of the nexus between Sinn Féin and the IRA. Such a puppet will never be a First Minister for all. Behind all the pious, honeyed words of today lies the real Sinn Féin view that this brings them within touching distance of an All-Ireland. That is how they will abuse, that is how they will misuse this office, both in this place and in Washington, no doubt, when the opportunity arises. Well, Mr. Speaker, we have a Sinn Féin First Minister, but not in my name, nor in the name of thousands of unionists who will never bow the knee to IRA Sinn Féin.
I call Mr. Jerry Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's important to briefly address the appointment of a Nationalist First Minister. And first of all, we do reject the sectarian politics that seeks to deny somebody office based on their community background or where they grew up or where they live. And secondly, to say that nobody can deny the symbolism of a Nationalist First Minister in a state which was designed to ensure unionist domination. The Protestant state for Protestant people was undemocratic, unjust, and it was meant to ensure the fortunes of a unionist elite, far removed from the ordinary struggles of working class people, both Catholic, Protestant and neither. This state still grapples with the legacy of that sectarianism, with an assembly built on communal designation, communities built on segregation, and a political establishment that strangles attempts at working class unity and a decent future for all. So the election of a Nationalist First Minister, Mr. Speaker, is symbolic, but in a society like ours, boy, we need to move beyond symbolism. But symbolism is not enough to deliver on the aspirations and needs of working class communities. And it wasn't too long ago that First and Deputy First Minister, Unionists and Nationalists were working hand in glove to essentially impoverish people of all backgrounds. And given, Mr. Speaker, Sinn Féin and others' past record, we seriously ask, will we have a First Minister for all, or will we have a First Minister for the well-off? Will we have a First Minister for workers, or will we have a First Minister for corporations? I note and welcome the First Minister's comments on a ceasefire, but I would say quite genuinely and sincerely, will the First Minister for all stand with the people of Palestine and boycott the White House this St. Patrick's Day? Or will the lure of American capitalism, foreign direct investment and low-wage jobs for Irish workers prove too much? The mass Palestine solidarity movement will not tolerate ministers in this administration of any kind, any ideology, giving cover to the US administration that is funding the genocide in Gaza. And one of the first tasks of this Assembly, Mr. Speaker, should be to call for a ceasefire in Gaza and to join the boycott of the apartheid Israeli regime. In a second. I think also, Mr. Speaker, there's an onus, I think, on the First Minister to support and outline a vision of a united Ireland that breaks from one that just simply stitches two states together and challenges the powerful interests at the heart of these states, north and south. We cannot continue to assure Irish capital that its profits will remain untouched. We stand, with many others, in the tradition of James Connolly, and we insist that working class rule, not unionist or nationalist rule, is the only rule worthwhile fighting for in a united Ireland, and a socialist Ireland that brings together people of all backgrounds and creates better living standards for all. Only then can we leave communal symbolism, sectarianism and the deprivation wrought by Stormont and Westminster in the past.
I call Mr. Gordon Lyons.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And first of all, can I congratulate you as you take up your new role, and I know that you will do an excellent job on behalf of this House. Secondly, I want to thank Mr. Allister for the reminder that we have had from him today, and the reminder that every time he speaks, he reminds us why he's the sole TUV member on that bench. He has absolutely nothing to offer. He has absolutely nothing to offer the people of Northern Ireland. He has no plan, he has no strategy, and he has no record of delivery for the people of Northern Ireland. And I am pleased that we are able to be here today and to get on with the job at hand. Mr. Speaker, I want to recognise the significant role that Michelle O'Neill and Emma Little-Pengelly have taken on today, and we want them to succeed because we want what's best for the people of Northern Ireland. I do want to, if you will indulge me, just say a little about Emma Little-Pengelly, if I may. I've known Emma for almost 20 years. I have worked alongside her in many different capacities, and certain things have become apparent to me over that time. She has a very clear love for Northern Ireland. She loves its people, and she is passionate about the future of this place. She already has a record of delivery, especially through her previous role within the Executive Office. I think of the Together Building United Community programme, the numeracy and literacy initiatives that she took up, the Urban Villages programme, and also standing up for the innocent victims of terrorism. I know that she is determined, resilient, compassionate, often late for every meeting, but also that she wants to make a difference. Those are characteristics that will serve her well in this new role, and they will also serve all of us as well. This is an executive that needs to be marked by delivery. There is much work to do for the people that we represent, and now it is time to get on with it. Thank you.
Lord Sugden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations on your appointment. I wish to pay tribute to your predecessor, who I always felt was fair in giving smaller parties and independents their rightful voice, and I hope you continue in that vein. I wish to congratulate Michelle O'Neill on becoming First Minister and Emma Little-Pengelly as Deputy First Minister. I am pleased for Michelle and Emma because both are capable, strong women who have worked in politics for a long time and will work despite the misogyny. I wish all new ministers success in their roles because we need you to step up. We've heard our First Minister describe herself as the First Minister for all, and I welcome that, and indeed would encourage you all to work toward that goal, because today is not about one person or a political party. It's about the people of Northern Ireland, and we need to start serving them. The constitutional question is important and will remain so. It is absolutely valid to be a unionist, a nationalist, or not have made your mind up. Having an opinion on the context in which we deliver our public services is absolutely relevant. It's fundamental. Let's stop conflating this issue with orange and green. That's cultural, which is also important to many people, but it's certainly not sectarian. We are not neutral. We are wonderful and varied people. Let's embrace that instead of tearing lumps out of each other. And let's stop excluding people because of their constitutional preference. Sadly, we are formally doing that again today by not putting the Department of Justice into the D'Hondt process. My appointment a number of years ago wasn't a failure. It was progress, and I welcome and appreciate Martin McGuinness for doing that. Because if a unionist can be a Justice Minister, that paves the way for a nationalist to be a Justice Minister. But today, it seems that it can be neither. And that courage that was displayed in 2016 is apparently gone. As the leader of nationalism, I respect that Michelle O'Neill is our First Minister. I am pleased for her. I am pleased for the people she represents, because as a confident unionist, they are my people too. I love Northern Ireland, and it breaks my heart to see us not reaching our potential, but we can change that starting today. We need to reconcile, and we need to do that by not remaining apart, by hiding who we collectively and individually are. We do it through integration, through commonality, acceptance and respect. Always respect. All of the above is an acknowledgement of who we are, but this institution needs to get on with the business of improving public services, hospital waiting lists, childcare, trust in our police force, preparing infrastructure, our skills and our economy for the opportunities that will now come our way. By focusing on these issues, we will give confidence back to the public because they desperately want this place to work. The numbers who marched for fair pay in Belfast city centre last month and those standing outside today calling for restoration far exceeded anyone who opposed it. It's their lives and the lives of their families, from my baby girl Lindy, we are responsible for changing for the better, and I look forward to working with you all.
Mr. Mike Nesbitt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It would be remiss not to begin by congratulating you and also assuring you that I'm not about to burst into a chorus of that great 1976 hit, "It Should Have Been Me." May I also congratulate the new First Minister and Deputy First Minister and welcome their initial remarks, which I think we can all buy into. I see Mr Muir has a copy of the 1998 agreement in front of him, and it reminds me of the initial commitment in that agreement. And on a day when we're all making pledges, maybe we should pledge to recommit ourselves to paragraph 2, the declaration of support for that agreement, where we pledge to take a fresh opportunity, a fresh start, to build relationships. Relationships built on tolerance of each other, on reconciliation, of building mutual trust, and above all, demonstrating mutual respect. And it seems to me those values are the only solid foundation on which to go forward. And over the last couple of years, of course, we have missed opportunities to build those relationships, not just here in this chamber, but at the various committees where I think those relationships are built, where we best get the opportunity to understand each other and what we are trying to achieve. And of course, for our ministers, in terms of our relationship with the Government of Ireland, we have missed out on the North-South Ministerial body, where ministers come together and understand each other. So this is an opportunity, I think, to make those pledges, and I wish everybody well, and I look forward to finding out who the ministers will be who will come in support of the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what other people's plans are in terms of private members' bills, but I want to assure colleagues that as soon as you call a break, I will be heading for the Bills Office like Usain Bolt. Or indeed, it might be more accurate to say, like Usain Bolt's granddad.
That's all the members who've indicated they wish to speak. The outgoing Speaker had agreed with whips that there would be a short suspension, so I propose that we suspend for 30 minutes to sit and suspend it. Sit and suspend it.
Assembly Chamber. Sound. 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 Assembly Chamber. Sound.
That's me, says so. Okay. Members, the sitting is resumed. Order. The next item of business in the filling of the office of the Minister of Justice. I'll conduct the process for the filling of the office in accordance with the procedures set out in Part 1A, Schedule 4A to the Northern Ireland Act 1998 and Standing Order 44A. I'll begin by asking for nominations. Any member may rise and nominate another member of the Assembly to hold the office of the Minister of Justice. If members rise from more than one party, I will call first the member from the largest of those parties to make a nomination in accordance with convention. I advise members that the Act requires that one nomination must be processed before a further nomination can be made. I will therefore only take one nomination at a time and put the question on that nomination. If the Assembly resolves by parallel consent that the member nominated shall be Minister of Justice, and that person takes up office as required by the Act and standing orders, no further nominations may be made. I will only call for further nominations if those conditions are not fulfilled. Having consulted with party whips, I allow a member making a nomination to speak for up to 3 minutes, following which there will be an opportunity for debate on the nomination with members also having an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Standing orders place a time constraint on the nomination process, and I will curtail the debate if necessary. Unless under Standing Order 44A2 the Assembly approves a request for the time limit to be extended, in any event, if it appears that before I put the question the time limit will be exceeded, I will ask a nominator to repeat the nomination after the debate. As the person nominated to fill the vacancy shall not take up office until he or she has affirmed the terms of the pledge of office contained in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998, after the question has been determined, I will ask the person nominated to affirm the pledge of office. which was read into the record during the previous item of business. Do I have a nomination for a member to hold the office of the Minister of Justice? I call Ms Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It gives me great pleasure to nominate my party leader and friend Naomi Long MLA as Justice Minister. Those of you who sat in the last Assembly will have seen the impressive number of bills she brought through in partnership with the Justice Committee. Each of them are fundamentally changing justice policy, and these are already impacting positively on people's lives, and we are seeing improvements in public sector delivery. I know that Naomi Long still has many more areas of work in the Justice Department and with its delivery partners that she would like to tackle, and I know that she will do this with the same passion and drive as before. Naomi has also proved herself to be a hard-working member of the Executive under the last mandate, when her strong sense of collective action shone through, especially as the COVID-19 pandemic engulfed our society. She believes in devolution and that the people of Northern Ireland are best served by a locally elected government that is responsible and responsive to its people. Naomi's long history of public service in this chamber and in many other political institutions along the way has proven her commitment to delivering a shared society that works for everyone. I ask this Assembly to support this nomination of Naomi Long and vote for her as the next Justice Minister. Thank you.
Naomi Long has been nominated. Ms Long, do you accept this nomination?
I accept the nomination, Mr Speaker.
The nomination will now be open for debate, and I remind members that they may speak for up to 3 minutes. I call Linda Dillon.
Speaker, and I want to congratulate you on your new role. I want to support the appointment of Naomi Long to the position of Justice Minister in this Assembly. Sinn Féin is absolutely committed to working with you as Justice Minister, as we have in the past, and with all parties and every section of our community to deliver progressive change in our justice system. The issues of justice, of policing and community safety go right to the core of who we all are as human beings. We all want to feel safe in our homes and in our communities. We all should have the right to expect that that will be the case. And we should have the right to expect that those tasked with administering justice will be there for us without fear or favour when that support is needed. Of course, there are massive challenges ahead, not least in terms of huge budget pressures facing all of the departments. But we are determined to work in partnership with you in addressing these challenges and in delivering necessary legislative change in this chamber. I wish you well in the important role of Justice Minister that begins today. Thank you.
I call Matthew O'Toole.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. May I first of all congratulate Naomi Long on being reappointed Justice Minister. I don't think there's anybody in Northern Ireland politics who would doubt the ability of Naomi. Indeed, some of us have electorally found to our cost that Ms Naomi Long is an extremely effective politician. I do, however, Mr Speaker, have to put on record today my party's profound regret that once again the post of Justice Minister has been excluded from the D'Hondt process. I said earlier on there was a profoundly historic moment that Michelle O'Neill had been elected the first nationalist First Minister of this place, and it's something that we should all mark. But there is absolutely no reason why there shouldn't be a Nationalist Justice Minister elected. There are benches of qualified Sinn Féin MLAs behind me who could do that job. There is no reason why anyone's preference for a United Ireland in the future should prevent them from taking up the post of Justice Minister. So I do want to make that point. I would also gently say to some of my alliance colleagues who had a very good election and who are entitled under a normal D'Hondt process to have 2 ministries. Of course, in the previous mandate they had the same number of MLAs as us, and they had the Justice Ministry because the Justice Ministry was taken out of the D'Hondt process. Please, finally, can we have this be the last time that a nationalist is excluded from holding the post of Justice Minister, because it is utterly indefensible in 2024. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
That concludes the debate. Before I proceed to the question, I would remind the Assembly that the Northern Ireland Act 1998 requires that the resolution must be passed by party consent. The question is that Naomi Long be Minister of Justice. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. No. Aye. No. As there is ayes from all sides of the House and only one no, I am satisfied that parallel consent has been demonstrated. Members, I will now ask Naomi Long to affirm the terms of the Pledge of Office as set out in Schedule 4 in the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Mr. Speaker, I affirm the terms of the Pledge of Office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
I now confirm that Naomi Long, having affirmed the terms of the Pledge of Office, has taken up the office as Minister of Justice in accordance with the Northern Ireland Act 1998. I offer her my congratulations. Let us move on. We now move to the appointment of ministers, and I will conduct the process for filling these offices in accordance with the procedure set out in Section 18 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998 and Standing Order 44. I'll ask a nominating officer of each political party, in order required by the formula contained in Section 18(5), to select an available ministerial office and nominate a person to hold it who is a member of his or her party and of the Assembly. We've received notification that the nominating officer for this item of business for the Alliance Party will be Paula Bradshaw, for the SDLP Mrs Cara Hunter, and UUP Mr John Stewart. If a nominating officer declines to nominate, I will invite the nominating officer of the next political party determined by the formula to nominate a member to hold ministerial office. I call on Michelle O'Neill as nominating officer of the political party for which the formula laid down in Section 18 gives the highest figure to select a ministerial office and nominate a person to hold it who is a member of her party and of the Assembly.
Gormagad Can Corlia, I choose the Department of the Economy and I nominate Conor Murphy.
Pledge that he is willing to take up office and affirm the terms of the Pledge of Office.
To Ms Asta Concorda, I'm content to do that. Agus Tommy Tulchinach Glaku Anofik, I confirm I'm willing to take up the office of Minister for the Economy, and I affirm the terms of the Pledge of Office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Conor Murphy is now Minister for the Economy. I call on Keith Buchanan as nominating officer of the political party for which the formula laid down in Section 18 gives the highest figure to select a ministerial office and nominate a member to hold it who is a member of his or her party and of the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I select the Department of Education and I nominate Paul Given, MLA.
Mr Given confirmed that he is willing to take up office and affirm the Pledge of Office.
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Minister of Education, and I affirm the terms of the Pledge of Office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Paul Given is now the Minister for Education.
Have a slight adjournment. This proceedings have run contrary to how we expect them to go, and we would request a slight adjournment.
10 minutes.
Thank you.
Assembly is adjourned.
Assembly is suspended.
Assembly suspended.
Assembly Chamber. Sound. 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 Assembly Chamber. Sound.
The sitting is resumed. I call on Michelle O'Neill as nominating officer of the political party for which the formula laid down in Section 18 gives the highest figure. to select a ministerial office and nominate a member to hold it who is a member of her party and of the Assembly.
Garmiagod Can Corlia, I choose the Department of Finance and I nominate Dr. Kiva Archibald.
Will the member confirm that she is willing to take up office and affirm the pledge of office?
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Minister of Finance and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Kiva Archibald is now Minister of Finance. I call on Keith Buchanan as nominating officer of the political party for which the formula laid down in Section 18 gives the highest figure to select a ministerial office and nominate a member to hold it who is a member of his party and of the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I select the Department of Communities and I nominate Gordon Lyons MLA.
The member confirm that he is willing to take up office and affirm the terms of the pledge of office.
Mr. Speaker, I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Minister for Communities and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Gordon Lyons is now Minister for Communities. I call on John Stewart as nominating officer of the political party for which the formula laid down in Section 18 gives the highest figure to select a ministerial office and nominate a member to hold it who is a member of his party and of the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I select the Department of Health and nominate Robin Swan MLA.
Mr. Swan, are you willing to accept the nomination?
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Minister of Health and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Swan is now Minister of Health. I call on Michelle O'Neill as nominating officer of the political party for which the formula laid down in Section 18 gives the highest figure to select a ministerial office and nominate a member to hold it who is a member of her party and of the Assembly.
Garmiagod Can Corlia, I choose the Department of Infrastructure and I nominate John O'Dowd.
Will the member confirm that he is willing to take up the office and affirm the terms of the pledge of office?
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Minister for Infrastructure and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
O'Dowd is now Minister for Infrastructure. I call on Paula Bradshaw as nominating officer of the political party for which the formula laid down in Section 18 gives the highest figure to select a ministerial office and nominate a member to hold it who is a member of her party and of the Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Alliance Party, we will be taking Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs and we will be nominating Andrew Muir.
The member confirm that he is willing to take up office and affirm the terms of the pledge of office.
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Minister of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Andrew Muir is now the Minister for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. I thank the Assembly for its patience. That concludes the appointment of ministers under the D'Hunt process and I offer my congratulations to all of those who have taken up office. We now move to the nomination. As the SDLP members comprise 8% or more of the total numbers of the Assembly at the end of the day on which the Assembly first met, it meets the condition set out in Standing Order 45A, Part 1, Part C, that the SDLP may therefore choose to be recognised as part of the opposition. I have received a letter from the nominating officer of the SDLP advising me that Ms Cara Hunter will serve as our nominating officer for this item of business. Ms Hunter, does your party choose to be recognised as the official opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, the SDLP wish to be recognised as official opposition with our leader as Matthew O'Toole MLA. Thank you.
In accordance with Standing Order 45A, Bar 2, I invite the nominating officer of the party in opposition to nominate a member of that party to be leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, in our role in official opposition, we would like to nominate Matthew O'Toole as leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Apologies for that. We now move to junior ministers, and is that the letter? Yes. Yeah. I've received correspondence from the First and Deputy First Minister in relation to the appointment of junior ministers. I'll ask the clerk to read the letter.
3rd of February 2024. Dear Speaker, pursuant to the procedure for the appointment of junior ministers specified in paragraph 3(1) of the determination made by the then First Minister and Deputy First Minister on 8th of December 1999, as approved by the Assembly on 14th of December 1999, we have appointed Aisling Riley and Pam Cameron as junior ministers in the Executive Office. Signed, First Minister, Deputy First Minister.
Will Aisling Riley, in terms of the pledge of office?
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Junior Minister to the office of First Minister, and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
Will Pam Cameron affirm the terms of the pledge of office?
Mr. Speaker, I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of Junior Minister, and I affirm the terms of the pledge of office as set out in Schedule 4 to the Northern Ireland Act 1998.
I now confirm that Aisling Riley and Pam Cameron are junior ministers in the Executive Office. That concludes the business of appointing the junior ministers, and I offer my congratulations to them as they take up office. And we will now move to the next item of business on the order paper. Point of order, Mr. Allister.
Could I refer you back to the pledge of office? Can you confirm to the House whether or not the pledge of office includes a pledge to operate and work the recently announced East-West Council? Because I don't think it was in the text. And secondly, when the pledge of office commits ministers to implementing the law, in light of the judgment that was held in the case of Rooney against yourself, can you confirm that that means there's a statutory obligation on each and every minister to implement the protocol?
I think the member heard the pledge of office as it was read, and obviously that came from the St Andrews Agreement in 2006, and therefore the pledge of office is as it is written at that point. As this concludes all of the business on the order paper that may be conducted today, I propose by leave of the Assembly to adjourn the sitting. Details of the next sitting will be communicated to members in due course. Item 7 on the order paper, the adjournment. The question is that the Assembly do now adjourn. The Assembly is now adjourned. Thank you.